Guys, this is Christopher Key with SWATs. I wanted to go over some propaganda that was put out 2 years ago at NBC here in Alabama, telling everybody that all the 6th graders had to have their shots, that it was the law, and if they did not get their shots, they would not be able to attend school. There was also a letter sent home with my children telling me that it was the law, that they have to have their shots. Because of this propaganda, 2 years ago I was forced to fly in from San Antonio, Texas. And I flew in, went to the school, went to the health department, because I know there is no law that requires my children to have the vaccines and the shots. Finally, to get rid of me, the supervisor of the health department finally gave me the religious exempt form to sign. Guys, know your rights. Know that there is no law that requires you to vaccinate your children. I'm not a medical doctor. I do not practice medicine without a license. But I do not believe it's safe and effective to give your children these dangerous vaccines. So do your research and please watch this propaganda. And then it's very nice to know that this past year I went back to the health department and quite a few of the people there knew that there was no law. And watch this, please.
Say out. Look at you. You're a big girl.
There were many big boys and girls who received their tetanus, diphtheria, and pertussis shot today. As of last September, it's state law. This year's Alabama 6th graders must get this shot or they won't be allowed in school.
It is only 5 weeks until school starts. There is this vaccine, Tdap vaccine, that 6th graders must have in order to register for school.
Only at the Boutwell and only to...
As you saw, they said they must have. It's the new state law. Guys, that is untrue. What they've put in is statutes and codes. Know your Constitution, know your law, and please do your research. Now here, I was going to the health department so you can see what happened here. Here I am, guys, walking in to the health department. And we're going to see if they'll tell the truth and tell us that there is not a law that requires your kids to be vaccinated. So let's see if they'll tell us the truth or not. Hey guys, while I'm here at the health department, I come across a Pelham police officer, as you can see right here, and we strike up a conversation, and it was very good to know that more people are waking up and realizing what is happening. So listen to this conversation. Why not? It's perfectly healthy. Come on. I came here last year. I had to fly in from Texas because my kids were going into 6th grade where they had to get their new shots. And I'd give my ex-wife a bunch of research on it. She finally called me up and said, "You deal with it." So what do you mean? She said, "Just you take. If you don't want to take the shots, you get it taken care of." So I went to their school and they said, "Look, your kids aren't going to school here." I said, "Look, I know the law. I know there's no law." I said, "What do I need to do?" She said, "Well, there is a law. You're going to go to the health department." I came down here to these guys, and they tried to lie to me. I had to go to the manager and say, "Look, it is so sad." Well, they make it. And the crazier thing is, towards the end of school. If you heard that, he said that his wife was a pediatric care nurse, and she doesn't play this. My 2 kids are the only ones that didn't get their vaccines, okay? they had a measles and mumps breakout. So they called my wife and fear-mongered her and say, look, there's this breakout, we may have to quarantine your children. Look, my kids are fine. And they said, well, no. And again, if they work so well, why did all those other kids get measles and mumps? I mean, think about that. I mean, there is documents after documents to prove that. And those doctors that have stood out there in the front line have all lost their license. And that's what's so sad. And where are you an officer at?
Here at Bill.
Oh, really? Okay. Now, do many of the other police guys know this?
There's 3 of us.
Oh, really? So as you heard him say, there's 3 other officers in his group that know about this, that are all police officers. So that was very reassuring to realize this. And here's the first little lady I meet with.
You might not be able to pull them up since all our doctors don't link the patients. If that's the case, you're going to have to call them.
No, I don't. I just need the form showing that my kids don't have to take the shots.
They don't have to?
Mm-hmm.
You want an exemption form?
Right.
I need child's names and date of birth.
Last time when I came in, the lady tried to tell me that there was a law that required them to take the vaccinations. There's no law that requires your child to take the vaccination. Do you know that? Huh?
It's optional.
But no, it's not. It's very optional. But she tried to fearmonger me and tell me that there was a law that required my children to take the vaccination.
I'm not sure who you spoke with.
So are you aware that there is no law?
I'm aware of it.
Okay, so you're stating there is no law, correct?
I don't think there's a law.
No, not think. Not think. You know there is no law,
They
correct?
require them to have some of them, but they're not. If you don't want them, if your beliefs are different, then you don't have to get them.
So I had to go and talk to your manager last time to get this taken care of, because she was trying to tell me my kids would not be able to go to school without them. I think that's wrong to try to fearmonger me into signing something. Had I not known the law and I'd known what my rights were, I would have been like every other little good sheep, and I would have signed the piece of paper and allow that to happen. You think that's right? Do you vaccinate your children?
I do.
I'm sorry.
I need the date of birth for each of them.
Do I have to do this every year?
I'm not sure, sir. Are they twins?
Yeah, I'm sorry. The birthday's 98. 6/30/98.
Okay. And you can take a seat in the lobby. I'll take it to the nurse so she can get it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to stand outside now here. As you can see, a lot of people now are finally realizing what's going on with the vaccines. And this lady actually admitted to me that there is no law that requires you to take the vaccinations. So all you people out there that are being told that there is a law that your children have to take a vaccine, it is completely, totally false. There is a religious exempt form that you can sign, and that you can be exempt and not have to put all the toxic chemicals into your beautiful, wonderful children. So please, guys, do your research and realize what is going on here to see the dangers. I believe, and I'm not a medical doctor, I do not practice medicine without a license, but I choose not to vaccinate my children because of the extensive research I've done on vaccines and the dangers of vaccines, and will not subject my children to these toxic chemicals. We'll see what they say here in the end. Okay, I'm going back in, and then here's another wonderful lady from the CDC.
Is this exemption from all vaccines?
No, of course. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you know about them not being able to attend school if vaccine-preventable disease breaks out?
Of course.
Okay.
Are you aware, where do I sign out?
You sign right here?
Are you aware that there's no law that requires your children to be vaccinated?
So I'm not aware of that.
There is no law that requires your child to be vaccinated. Is your manager here? Because last time I had to talk to him. Is there a manager or somebody here I can talk to?
Just a clinic supervisor,
Yeah.
but not an administrator.
Okay, as your the supervisor, can I speak with him real quick? Or
It's
her?
a she. Mm-hmm.
Please. Okay, now this lady at the health department did not know that there was no law. She's been one of the good little sheep that's been brainwashed into believing that it is the law. And here comes the administrator. Sorry, what? It wasn't an administrator. It was the highest person up they had here. So listen to this. Pleasure meeting you. Yeah, real quick. Pleasure meeting you. Yeah, real quick. The immunizations. Last year, I had to fly in from San Antonio, Texas, because my children were going to 6th grade, and their school told them they had to be immunized, that it was a law. Okay.
For the tetanus.
Say it again.
They're going to the 6th grade. It was probably they changed the law to
No,
require
there's never. I'm sorry. There's never been a law for any vaccinations. Okay. But we won't fight about that. But I can show you the law.
What problem are you having here today?
Can I finish? And I'd be happy to. Okay. I know you don't like answering these questions because people don't like. Anyway, so I had to go to the school, and they told me it was a law. My children would not be in school if they did not get vaccinated. Okay. So then I came over here, and first the lady told me that it was a law and that there was no way to get around it. And finally, I asked her for the supervisor. She finally gave me the supervisor, and the supervisor finally said that there was a way around it to sign a religious exemption.
Exactly.
Okay, so anybody can sign a religious exemption and be exempt from taking the vaccine, correct?
Correct.
Okay, but even that being said, there still is no law that requires them to get the tetanus shot, so why do I even have to get this is what I'm trying to find out.
It's a school requirement. It's not.
Again, it's not Alabama school. No, I need to take it up with you guys because they sent me down here to y'all, okay? And I've flown in again from Texas to deal with this because, y'all.
Your record should have just transferred.
As you can see, this lady now is saying that it should be up to the school. She's throwing it back on them because, again, she doesn't know there is no law that requires you to be vaccinated. Guys, know your rights, so finish listening to this.
From one school to another, like you should have been able to say, I did this last year, you have it on file.
Okay. Again, I wanted to make sure I had all this, but why do y'all not tell people that number one, there's a religious exemption, and number two, you don't even know there's not a law that requires you to get vaccinated. There is no law.
I'm not going to, let me give you the number to our
Why don't,
immunization.
I would love to, but why don't you want to address it?
Because sir, it's a school requirement.
But it's not the law, so it's a lie.
You need to take that up with your senators.
But the health department's lying too because you guys are telling people that it's the law and it's not. And when is somebody going to be truthful?
Did anybody here
Yes, ma'am.
Today
yes.
is the law?
Huh? Not today. Last time I was here, they did.
I can't address that.
And you just now said there was a law that they had to get the tetanus, and there is no law. You just said that when I first came in.
The requirement for vaccinations for school changed.
Okay, again.
Now I don't know if that was a law, but it was the school's vaccination requirements changed in 2010. something like that.
Again, sweetheart, there is no law that requires you to have.
That's fine. I'm not going to argue that with you
Okay.
today, sir.
Gotcha.
Okay? If you need to speak to somebody in
Please.
immunizations, her name is Karen Bush.
I would love to talk to her. Is she here today?
No, she
not here
is
today?
not located here.
Okay.
Let's see.
But you are telling that there is, anybody can get a religious exemption, correct?
Correct.
I mean, that anybody can, for any circumstances.
We can't force you to get your children vaccinated. No,
Gotcha.
sir.
Good deal. Thank you.
And we will not.
Okay.
Ever.
Well, that's not truthful, but I can buy that for now. But if certain things happen, you'll force people to be vaccinated, but that's under other circumstances you have no control over. I mean, that would be the
force
CDC.
anybody to ever be vaccinated.
If your boss tells you to, or you'll be fired, you probably will, because you'll want to keep your job, and you'll do as you're told like everybody else.
Probably wouldn't.
Well, I respect you tremendously
Because
to finally
the
stand
parent
up for
is
what's
the
wrong,
parent.
to finally stand up for what's right. And
Parent is the parent.
there
They
you
have
go.
the choice.
That
I have children. I have direct choices for mine, and nobody will tell me what they can and can't do.
That's what I love to hear. Thank you.
So her name is Karen Bush. Okay. And if you want to take it up about the law, she's probably going to refer you to your senators.
Again, at least it starts me somewhere.
And what I would do if I were you is I would just go online to immunizations, and go that route.
I just can't stand the fear-mongering where, they've driven my wife crazy on this whole thing. And even when they had a breakout of measles and mumps, okay, my children were the only 2 kids in the school that had not been vaccinated. Okay, they didn't have it. Okay, but then they called them and quarantined them. And if these things work so well, then why don't all these other kids get the measles and mumps that were vaccinated? Explain that to me. Okay, explain that to me.
Probably they went somewhere, to a place where it's prevalent for the disease, and
Okay,
that
but
somebody
again,
contracted the disease.
But if they were vaccinated for the measles and mumps, the
But it's
vaccine.
probably a child that was not vaccinated that contracted the disease.
But again, in their school, okay, all the children were vaccinated for measles and mumps, except for my 2 children. Okay.
You know that for certain?
Yes, ma'am. We've already went through all this. Okay, and then they had a breakout of measles and mumps in the school. So if that vaccine works so well, why did those kids get the measles and mumps?
Well, I can't address that. I don't know.
Because there you go. It answers your own
Probably just don't
question.
have a good immune system. Like years later.
So what's the point of getting vaccinated then? And what's the point of getting vaccinated
Well, I'm
then?
not going to argue
Okay,
that.
gotcha. Thank you, ma'am.
Because I agree with you. You have your own choice.
See, right here, she answered her own question. If these vaccines work so well, then why did these other kids get sick, guys? And think about that. And I'm trying to make her think about it, and she's wanting to divert the question because she can't answer the question. If all these other kids have been vaccinated with the measles and mumps, then they should be well. But again, the vaccines, my belief, do not work. Okay, so finish listening to her.
This is for your children, as do I. I'm not going to argue vaccination, yes or no, with you.
Gotcha.
It's no point, right?
Yeah, not at all.
So,
But it's a point for other people to know the truth, that they can exempt out and opt out, and not to fear-monger them to believing that the only way they can go to school is to get filled full of vaccines.
I probably would take that up with the school for real.
Okay.
Sounds like a school issue.
Here it is. She's saying it's a school issue, but yet she's the one that told me it was a law. The school told me that they had no control over it, and I had to go deal with the health department. So here it is. They're playing back and forth because neither one of them knows the laws. They're all doing as they're told. So finish this.
It's not a school issue. This is happening all around the country. I mean, with anybody and everybody, because that's what you guys are being told to do.
I need to go get that number from Cherokee County, is where she's based.
And I'm sorry I took so much time. It's just, this is twice I've had to fly in from Texas to work on this.
You should not have to do that. You
Okay, so
should
once-
have been able to tell that school, I did this last year, you find my hobby.
Okay, so this is a one-time
There's
deal.
no expiration date on this.
Okay. Well, that's what my wife didn't know, and they're supposed to register tonight.
So you shouldn't have to fly in from Texas.
Okay, I wanted to make sure that everything was taken care of on
So
that.
if you did that, that was on your
Okay,
own report.
thank you.
The school should have.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's the area immunization manager. She's probably not going to argue with you either. Okay, and I know you're not looking for an argument, but she's probably not where you need to go because, I mean, she's probably just going to tell you the same as I did. I mean, it's a something that you need to take up with your senators and, the people that make the law.
What would have been really nice is if the schools would know that there is a religious exemption and all they have to do, and it'd be nice, why can't the schools have this? But they don't make it very convenient, okay? Because they've been told, because they get a certain amount of money, as long as those kids are vaccinated. I mean, they can make sure all their grants, we can show you a lot of really cool, I know, you don't know that.
Again, this poor little lady doesn't know. I was then, the video cut out, and we can see here, I was wanting to get some other forms to pass out to my other families and friends because it's very inconvenient for people to go all the way out to Pelham, and the young lady would not give them to me. So listen to this. Okay, let's recap. Okay, let's recap here. We're leaving the Shelby County Health Department, and the lady finally did say that there is a religious exempt that you can sign. She would not confirm that there is no law that requires you to get vaccinated, and she could not provide it for me. And last, in closing, I showed her how there's a bunch of you guys out there that also don't want to take your shots, and I've asked her if could I get 20 more of these little pieces of paper because it's very inconvenient for people that live in Oak Mountain to drive all the way out here to the Shelby County Department and get these pieces of paper. And since all it is names filled in, as you can see, I asked her, would she please give me 20 more forms to take back to anybody that did not want to get immunized. And she said, no, sir, I cannot. I cannot and I will not. And I said, why? And she said, well, you've been inconvenient, haven't you? I said, yes, ma'am, I have. She said, well, they'll have to be inconvenient also. I said, that's not right. You know, why can't you make this simple? Give me the forms so that I can take these people back the forms so they don't have to take the shots. And she said, it's policy. And I said, okay, ma'am, if it's policy, will you show me the policy? And that's when she kind of said, no, sir, I don't have to show you that. I've taken all the time I'm going to take with you, and you need to have a blessed day. Very interesting, but please, again, all you people out there, do your research. I'm not a medical doctor. I do not practice medicine without a license, but please do your research on your vaccines and on your shots, and realize that you do have a way to opt out. You owe it to your beautiful children to do what's right. You owe it to them for you to do the research. And guys, again, know your constitutional rights, know the law, know what they're saying is nothing but statutes and codes, and more importantly, know there's a religious exemption that you can sign, and do your research.